All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to an all-new 2019 Show and Tell What the Hell. Sponsored by Terranodon Media. This is a very special episode today because I thought I would start off the new year with a bang and show you the new Show and Tell What the Hell diorama set that I'll be displaying items on. And I wanted to also start this off with a very special set of items. Extremely rare, I have found. And I've had these for a very, very long time. Not very long time, but, well, I guess so, over 20 years at this point. I want to say maybe about 20 years around this time to this day. It was in the late 90s. And I was told a rumor that one of the video game stores in town were closing. I gotta clean these things a little bit here. And I went to go check it out with some friends, and they said that they had some Nintendo games that they were gonna sell, and I thought nothing of it. I said, you know what, I'll buy them. And I found some things that I really wanted to get a hold of him. I'm just pretty excited to show you guys, and I wanted to see what you all think of a Castlevania set. So yes, this is my Castlevania video. Oh, let me adjust my camera there. Yeah, these are not just only Castlevania games, but these are the original Castlevania games for the Nintendo Entertainment System. And they are a little dusty, because I put them on display, but they're actually factory sealed as well. Not in perfect condition, but in pretty damn good condition. So there's Castlevania 1, there's Castlevania 2, and here's Castlevania 3, Dracula's Curse. And these are, and you can see there's a little bit of damage there, but these are all factory sealed. But these are a few of some of my prized possessions. I'm just very, these are the things that I've always been a huge Castlevania fan. I hate when people say stuff. I've always been a huge fan. But along that day, the other things that I did get that day, I picked up, they also had Bloodlines here in box, and they also had Super Castlevania 4. Now, these I did open. I did open these, and now I have them in protected boxes. I don't regret it, because I really wanted to play Castlevania 4, because I had a copy and I lost it. And I also wanted to play Bloodlines, because I actually had never played Bloodlines up until that point. So this is around, I want to say actually it was probably about 1998, to be honest with you. I'll have to ask my friends to confirm that, because they went with me. And I said, you know what, I'm going to buy these Castlevania games. And we didn't know what the market value of these. I still don't know, and I don't really care, to be honest with you. Because it was a point where I did realize that collecting games wasn't really a thing. It was just, to me, I started being a person that I was like, well, I want to just collect things that I like and things that I want. And at that point, I was still collecting toys and comic books, and I said, you know what, let me get these, because I do like Castlevania so much. I've had so many great experiences with Castlevania. I'd played all the Game Boy ones, I'd passed all the Nintendo ones, and Symphony of the Night had come out, and I think around that time, that was where Symphony of the Night was really at its peak, so I was pretty excited and had this personal little desire to want to revisit all of Castlevania. And yeah, I mean, it was one of those things I said, you know what, I'd love to have these games, and I'd like to have them sealed and keep them, because also I realized that at that point all my Nintendo games were gone or missing, and I never really took care of them. And I said, you know what, I'm gonna for now on, get some stuff and take care of it and keep it in box. And I regretted always having a box of Nintendo games, or having a box of Nintendo games, getting the box and just discarding it, not caring, keeping the booklet. But we didn't know the value of it back when. And the people that did keep their box, we felt they were pretty like anal retentive. People, we thought that, oh, what's this guy's problem? The guy was keeping the boxes. That was the strange kid that would grow up to be a serial killer. But if they didn't become a serial killer at this point, they kept their boxes and games and everything intact, they may have a good amount of money. Hey, they may be better businessmen, or they may be politicians. Who knows? But I was just very reckless with my material, and I think this is at a point where I was reaching that maturity and said, you know what, I'm going to start, trying to keep things a little bit more mint. Now, I haven't done a great job. I still don't have like great covers, and I want to know what you guys would suggest. I'm always afraid of getting these. They have these. I guess they're made out of kind of like a plexiglass cases for these. These are in these regular Nintendo cases, but I'm afraid that when I take them out, that it's gonna tear like the plastic wrapping, or something's gonna like it may stick. The plexiglass may stick to these and tear it off. I'm always afraid of that. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people have money stashed away. People have heirlooms. People have property. I got none of that, but I do have these. And these, when I look at these, I mean, my life is so pathetic that these Castlevania games just say, hey, you know what? I'm a lucky man. I'm a very lucky person. Despite all the hardships I've had in my life. And that's the thing. It's not about materialism. I think it's about what inspires you. What are things that motivate you to be creative and motivate you to keep living, and not just living, but didn't mean to make that sound so morbid or dark. But I mean, the things that make you want to enjoy your life. And it not necessarily. I'm not saying that I want to go jump around and go to Romania or and start whipping skeletons around. But that's, I mean, come on, let's face it. Who wouldn't want to do that? But it's the idea of adventure, And I think games like Castlevania, Zelda, and Mega Man helped exercise that part of your brain. And I do have this theory about 8-bit games. Now, you'd get a game like this, brand new in package, and it would just be a box of mysteries when you first see it. What is this game about? You'd see the artwork in the front, which, the artists had a very daunting task to create an environment and world that represented what the game was about. And so you were just left with this in your head. Then let's turn it around, and then you see you're playing the game, and you see these 8-bit with just a very minimal color palette, and I think that does something to your brain. I think that does something to where it says, "Hey, let's fill in the gaps. Let's use your imagination." And after a while, you get into a trance-like mode, where the music no longer becomes music, but just like a background environmental sound that goes with what you're thinking in that particular stage. So a lot of times you hear music and it gets too repetitive, and you don't want to hear it over and over again. I mean, that's how I am. I can't stand 2 minutes of hearing the radio with the same chorus lines over and over again. But when you play a Castlevania game, you could literally listen to a song for hours and hours and hours, which sometimes that took hours and hours, just to pass a stage and try over and over again. But yeah, the first, and I'm gonna be honest with you all, the first Castlevania game that I actually played was in fact Simon's Quest, and I do remember getting Simon's Quest at a Kmart, and my dad decided he was going to be extra generous that day and buy me a video game, and I believe it was for my birthday, or funds from my birthday, and he actually was the one that picked it out. And my dad, look at this here, we got a game, we got a guy here, like a knight, we got like a Dracula, we got a Dracula in the back, and there's a castle. It's called Simon's Quest. Do you want to go ahead and get this game? And it wasn't like the hottest game out at that point. I got this before I got other games like Super Mario 2, which was a big deal. And a lot of people, Castlevania Simon's Quest has a reputation for being a very cryptic game. Um, Probably due to, translations, and there's some issues with programming. But I'm gonna be honest with you, folks. I remember I have this bad habit. With games, I don't like to be told secrets. I don't like to get into guides. Well, old games like this. Modern games, I have a habit of if I got it for a good price, I'm just gonna blow through it because I don't want to waste 60 hours of my life just to get past one quest. I had a whole summer to figure out Simon's Quest. I remember opening up Nintendo Power, reading one clue, and then I just closed it. I said, no, I'm going to figure it out. Similarly to how I figured out Zelda. And back when you had this I had this technique, very mind-blowing and amazing technique that I would use to pass games. I'd get a piece of paper and write notes, and also draw maps. And I did like extensive long maps on note paper. And I would get these, just like binder paper, like the ones that with a little spiral. And that's how I was able to, work with games like Zelda and Zelda 2. Actually, my dad was not a video game player. He became addicted to my Zelda game and actually passed it before me and all of my friends. So it was a funny moment where all my friends. There was one time where we had a big get together for like a party I was having at my house, and several of my friends started going to my dad and asking him, "Hey, how do you get through this passive, game of Zelda and all that?" My dad likes to deny that to this day, but I still have friends that remember it. And one of them is actually a Texas chess champion. We'll get to him later. Actually, I'd like to do a podcast with my good old friend Hoel. But yeah, these games. Now, I remember Dracula's Curse coming out, and I remember first playing that one. I played Castlevania. I borrowed Castlevania from a friend, and then I rented it a few times. I managed to pass it once, and then after I played it after that, it was like a fluke, and I couldn't pass it, and then eventually I got back to passing it again. So that's how I am with video games. Sometimes I wonder how was I so good at these? But it's a lot of that hand-eye coordination going on. It's a lot of memorizing the levels too. The other trick I would do with games like Ninja Gaiden, or as I called it, Ninja Gaiden back then. Everyone called it Ninja Gaiden. I would actually also draw out the map and place little things on the map to where things would come out. Sometimes I had transparency paper or little pieces of tape. I would do little pieces of tape and put them on the TV screen because a little like crow would come out. And so I would put like the areas where they would come out and make sure to do that. It's like, I call it cheating, but it was also one of those things that helped me get through a level faster. And then after that, memorizing it and not having to worry about that. But I remember Dracula's Curse being just a very intimidating game. Phenomenally intimidating because I had never played a game like that before, excluding the other Castlevanias. But it was like getting Castlevania 1, a little bit of Castlevania 2, but there wasn't a game where I felt like this one. I felt like I was in a movie. I could picture what was happening. You had different like pathways. It was a little bit like had some elements of adventure, Zelda to the Adventure of Link. But then you had other characters that you could choose from, and then finding out the whole Alucard thing it was pretty mind blowing. I'll say mind blowing again. So yeah, I really good memories, and I went to my friend Brandon Marcus, and I went to Brandon's house, and this is probably about, I want to say it was at 4th or 5th grade. And he was like, "Hey dude, I got Dracula's Curse." So me and my friend Ernie, who lived down the street, and actually, a little trivia tidbit, we went to the elementary school that had burned down some years prior to that and got rebuilt, Kawas Elementary in Laredo, Texas. And that school was mentioned in the movie The Legend of Billie Jean. Who was it that says Kristen Slater's character says like, "Oh, you mean that school in Laredo that burned down?" Like that was the school. Luckily, nobody died or anything like that, but that's all extraneous to what we're talking about here. Just a little trivia tidbit. Now, going back to that, I thought that was just a phenomenal, amazing game. And I think what this game managed to accomplish more so than this was not only the playability. I felt it was a tiny bit easier, a little bit more fair. I would say more fair, and they brought in the challenges to where you really actually had to have that eye-hand-eye coordination. It's all about the timing. It's an old joke. No, you actually had to have really good timing in some of the levels here, and it wasn't as frustrating, but I think it was in some ways more challenging. But yeah, I mean, these are just some precious memories with Castlevania. Now, I've had offers before, and some people have thrown some amazing prices at me, but even if I don't think there could be a price for these. I mean, these are all priceless gems. I hate using that, but these are all priceless pieces for me. That I will, if I ever have kids, I'll pass them down. And I said, you little sons of bitches, you better not sell these. I'd like to get better displays. So if you guys got any comments, if you guys got some interesting Castlevania stories, I'd love to hear them. And I hate, and look, I know usually I sound like a bitter ass, but today I'm really super excited. So I hate to sound like the excited YouTuber that's like unnecessarily excited. But when I think about Castlevania, it just gives me so much joy. And again, it's so pathetic for me to do so. But there's more to life than Castlevania. I know, I understand. But it's not the game. It's not the concept of playing game. It's the principle of inspiration, the principle of adventure. And not when you're thinking about Castlevania, you're not only thinking about the game, you're thinking about the spirit of man, the existentialism, you're thinking of things like good versus evil. What is good versus evil? And you think about like characters like Alucard, who was maybe at once evil, and his father's the embodiment of evil. And then you got like Grant the Nasty over here, who is a pretty shady character. Now, I'm not going to talk too much about these bloodlines because my history with these games don't go as far back as these. Because Bloodlines, again, I started playing that in the late 90s, so a few years after it was released, I got into it, and I do really enjoy this game, and I'd like to revisit it at some point. As a matter of fact, at my studio, I have set up a retro lounge, as I like to call it. So I'm getting the retro lounge ready with all my VHS and my CRTs, and Castlevania 4. My God, I can't say... This is probably one of the best games ever made. I still consider it to be part 4. There's a lot of things in my canon. There's people that used to say that in forums. In my canon, this guy does this. Like Castlevania 4, I believe I played that when we're talking about my chess champion buddy. I played that at his place. I don't know if he rented it or what, Howell's place, and Howell was a expert at every game that we played. In fact, the same day he was asking for tips on Zelda, he showed us how he passed Kid Icarus. He passed it just with one life without getting killed or anything like that to prove it to us, and he was really good at doing that. But he still is good at games. And I think it did burn him a little bit that my dad was able to pass Zelda. But anyway, Super Castlevania 4, just, again, an amazing game. Do I regret opening it? No, I really wanted to play it. I do have other Castlevania games. In fact, I got most Castlevania games. I am missing Dracula X, and I don't think I'll ever get that. But I do have the Japanese version of that. Without the box, of course. But eventually I'd like to get that just, because it's one of those I like to have. I could easily just purchase it when I save up money and get it. But there's this thing about being a treasure hunter of sorts. When I run into stuff that I buy, it's not just the acquisition of that particular item. It's the lust, the longing for it is part of it. And I was telling that to one of the guys at the D-Pad. The D-Pad, by the way, is a store in New Braunfels, Texas, and one of the best retro video game stores in this great state, and possibly the nation, dare I say. But I was explaining, I think I realized that part of why I don't have a lot of the games that I want is just that I enjoy the longing for it. I enjoy, one of these days one of these days I will get that game and it'll be there with my collection. That's what it is. It's the same way with some of these Marvel Legends or Transformer toys. I have these, and I don't know if any of you guys have that. What's a good term I was using? Uh, like wish list items, like a special long term wish list, like treasure items. It's like, oh, it is that uh that drive, like, oh, and it's kind of like, I guess, the idea of finding stuff in a treasure box, well, in a wall, and finding some meat, or finding something special in the game, and that's one of the approaches to life that I have generally. Like, I don't like spoilers most of the time, unless I know the movie's a big turd. Then I'll say, just please tell me the spoilers. Let me know what's going to happen in the Han Solo movie before I go in and just like run at the screen and just tear it up to pieces. But there's there's little secrets and things. That's why I don't like cheats in games. That's why I like taking my time, especially if I'm spending modern games $60. You're gonna bet your ass I'm gonna spend as much time as possible exploring the game until I get really bored after a while and say, all right, let me just rush through this part. I just need to do the main quest at this point. Or if I'm replaying Skyrim for the 30th time, literally the 30th time, making a new character, I'm going to go and say, all right, I'm going to do exploit here, exploit there, and get to where I want to be, and then go back to where, as if I didn't spend, as if I spent like 200 hours, and then starting from there and saying, all right, let me put the challenges back on. But anyway, I'm trying to find a good stopping point for this, but it's so hard because I can go on for hours and hours and hours just telling you about my adventures with Castlevania. Maybe eventually I'd like to get a like a video game channel going on where I'm playing games and talking about it. I had this concept idea years ago where I said, how about if I just start drinking, getting drunk, and playing games? But then people started doing that. So I'm not going to claim to have come up with that idea, but I don't know. It may be nice just to like play these games. I was thinking of maybe even, no, I don't want to share that idea. That's a dumb idea. But yeah, I mean, this is here's my little skull friend that I like to have on display with my Castlevania. I think it goes with a nice little with the decor. But I'd love to see for the Nintendo Switch to actually put these out in some sort of collection, or PS4. Heck, I think I'd buy them both, just because I'm just so much of a obsessive fan of Castlevania, the original series. Now, like I said, the ones I got, all the PS2 ones, I got all the Game Boy Advance ones in box. What else do I got? Lord of Shadows. I got the 3DS Lord of Shadows, which, I'll get into a discussion for that later. If you guys would like me to do more Castlevania related stuff, which I will have some Castlevania items that are one of a kind items too. Now I wish, and I'm always going to give him shit. There's a person I know that I gifted a particular Castlevania item to years ago, and it was a Castlevania arcade display sign, and it said Castlevania on there. Gone, missing, no idea. Which in some way it kind of gives it some sort of mystery, like where did it go? Who has that now? There are some little special Castlevania items that I have lying around. There are things that I wish I could get, but I just can't get everything, of course. There's some things that I've seen people have, like special limited box set things that I'm like, oh, that's so cool. I saw the movie. I got some issues with the show. I gotta be honest, folks. I give it a C, and that's just because it got extra credit. There's a lot of things I felt it was lacking, but if you guys would be interested in me talking about the Castlevania show and how I think I would improve it or make it better, first of all, I'd get rid of the producer. Sorry, I think he has that Quentin Tarantino approach where you make cool for cool's sake, and the way I always thought of Castlevania is just gothic horror. And it was inspired by Hammer movies and classic Universal monster stuff. So I would start from there. start with the inspiration behind it. And by the way, if you want to see a good Castlevania like movie, uh, what is it? Captain Kronos Vampire Killer is essentially a Castlevania movie from was it the late 60s, early 70s. Then there's another one that's pretty fun, which has a lot of reminds me a lot of Castlevania. Um, is Jack the Giant Killer, not not the new one, the old one that had stop motion animation that looked similar to Harryhausen but wasn't Harryhausen. Check that out. If you're a fan of Castlevania, check out that movie. There's a lot of other movies that I would recommend with this. Maybe I can compile a big list of if you like Castlevania, watch this movie. Add, like, and subscribe. Anyway, I did want to start off this year with some really big items, some really cool things here, just to show you that I'm not just picking out toys that I have or that just I bought from the store, which I do. I get excited and I say, hey, I want to show you all this cool thing that I got, what I recommended to you. But the idea behind this particular segment that I'm doing, show and tell what the hell is, just to bring something and talk about it, like the way we did when we were kids, because I think creating a dialogue and a discussion for such things is what we do. Is part of human nature. We want to talk about the things that we know, the things that we like, and I'm curious to know what other people's thoughts and ideas were about Castlevania. Hell, I may do another like a part 2, and I may go more into just these, or just go into Castlevania 1. But anyway, folks, it's been really fun talking about this. A lot of my stuff is not rehearsed. It's a one-take deal. I like to do it and get it over with and just post directly to that. So I'm sorry, right at this point, I just don't have the time to give you fancy intros or, all these like little cool credits and all that. And I don't got any sponsors or anything like that. I just wanted to share this stuff. Now, if you do like this kind of content and you like the world that I'm talking about, just, talking about stuff that I like, extreme and underground heavy metal, horror movies, weird action figures, the things that are bizarre, then follow me on Instagram. Follow Terranodon Media on Instagram. Follow Terranodon Media on Facebook. We do have a Facebook page. Follow us here on YouTube. The more I see subscribers, and I saw subscribers actually blow up this year from pretty much 0 to we're close to 50. So all 50 of you, thank you. I didn't know that there's people actually into this. I mean, I know there's people into this, but I didn't know there's people that would find this and say, oh, wow, I'm going to just go ahead and subscribe. So, and I've had a few funny negative comments. In a way, I do appreciate that because they do help me make things better. Now, I can't promise you that this is going to be some big spectacular show that a lot of YouTubers do. I do not at this point have any desire to be a YouTuber. Although I can sound like one if I wanted to and give you top 10 lists. No, I just want to speak from the heart and from my experience. I'm pushing 40, so I'm like I don't consider myself a nerd, or a geek, because I did horrible in high school, did pretty damn good in college because I worked at my own pace, but, you didn't have to be a nerd to play shit like this. We just thought it was cool. It's just what we did. I didn't play football. I didn't run track. I did karate. Played a bunch of video games, and occasionally, and read a bunch of comic books. That's not nerdy. That's what kids did. I had a bicycle. I'd ride around a bicycle. Me and my buddies had a clubhouse. We collected Nintendo Powers and stuff like that. We go into the clubhouse, which essentially was just a pit tent in my backyard, and then relocated. We relocated our main facility to his backyard. And with a box full of Playboys that we would find, those were the hidden treasures, and things like that. That was the life that we lived, and but video games weren't life. They were the inspiration to creating adventures. And I think that's what we utilize that for. We're like, man, wouldn't it be cool to live that life? And so we went and sought those things out. I mean, I've traveled. I've, went to Europe. I still have aspirations to go to Romania and go visit Transylvania, stuff like that. I mean, video games were just a catalyst for your own inspiration, or your own motivations in life. If you're gonna be playing video games all day, I'm not gonna say not to do that, but hey, buddy, you're missing out so much. You're missing out so much, and try not to focus too much on all the retro shit. And I think that's a big problem with today is that, oh my God, I'm here. Look at me, just look at me going on and on. I mean, I'm gonna be repeating that, but I'll just close it off with that. It's like, don't focus too much on what's cool about the retro. If you're in your 20s right now, don't try to go out and seek out all the Castlevania. Go download them and play them, but focus on what the wonderful future we have ahead. No matter what you may think about what's going on in politics or what's going on with the world. I mean, the future and the world is what you make of it. And be inspired. You use these as methods to inspire yourself. And do everything you can. And make sure to be positive all the time. Now I'm gonna sound like some motivational guy. No, but I'm just saying use I guess I say that my whole thing is that like this is what I did with my future, and I still honor my past and the things that brought me great joy, but I am not like completely obsessed with it. I have not made it my life. I've not made it competitive. There's other people that have stuff that I don't own, which is cool. I'm glad for them, and that's cool that they have that. So don't be that person, and yeah, you're like, well, that's coming from the guy who owns all 3 Castlevania sealed. I'm like, dude, I'm not saying like this is stuff that's not awesome. This is great, I suppose, but I don't view this as in a collector standpoint. Even though everything else I do, collectors, toys and stuff like that. These are just like personal items. These are my heirlooms. These are the things that mean so much to me, because as I was speaking to you today, I'm not just like telling you things that I've kept in a box somewhere. Like, I'm remembering things. I am like, these are bringing back old memories. That's how bad my brain works. It takes a box and like the smell and the feel and the little corner logo to give me some sort of thing that triggers something in my brain. But anyway, folks, I hope you enjoy this. I hope you weren't too annoyed by this, what I mean. We'll see you next time. We'll see you later on.